Hey everyone, it's Shoja One. You're listening to another great pod by the Cleveland Sports Collective. Go Browns.
Greetings, Cleveland sports fan. Welcome to the Cleveland Sports Collective, the podcast for real fans by real fans. I'm John Cahill, today joined by Neil Dunward. Neil, how are you today?
I'm good, John. I've trapped nerve in my neck and my shoulder, so if anybody hears me start to go in the middle of the podcast, that's why. It's some dose. I would definitely be limited practice, probably DNP on the injury report today if the truth was known. But yeah, I'm getting soft in my old age, I think. But didn't stop me from going to gym this morning and getting through it. It's just that sometimes when you're sitting idle, it gives me some pain. So if you do hear any moaning and groaning in the background, it's not because I'm disappointed with any Brown stuff. It's just a physical ailment in the twilight of my years.
Twilight of your career, indeed. So Neil, this is to me an exciting week in the Browns calendar. This is one of the games that we should be, I suppose, maybe looking forward to. Washington have not looked any great shakes really in their first few games, and we have a couple of players coming back. Now, I do have some opinions on some of the players coming back, but let me know, Neil, what do you think of the guys coming back? Are we going to get a genuine uptake in performance, do you feel?
It's going to be an interesting one. I don't think that this coaching staff is going to throw them into the fire straight away once they come back. I think they're going to be more looking to get one of Vernon or Claiborne back and use those guys. I think they're the guys they're going to be worried about a small bit more. It's like they haven't rushed people back that have come back into the fold. Like Jack Conklin could have gone against Cincinnati, and they said, no, sit it out for a while. And I know I'm probably comparing apples to oranges with regards to O-line and how dire we've been in coverage this season. But I think maybe we see one of Greedy and Kevin Johnson get reps over the course of this game. I don't think we see two of them thrust back into the starting lineup. I don't think we see Mac Wilson back in again. He's wearing a pretty heavy knee brace, and he's running around the place. He looked fluid enough, in the individual drills he was doing. I don't think we see him. But I think what we see more of here is I think they will be involved. I think at least one of the two cornerbacks will be in there. I don't even think Mac Wilson will be active on game day. Well, he could be. Don't know. But I just, when you see a big knee brace there like Stone Cold Steve Austin had for years, to me that doesn't mean that he's going to be good to go this weekend, which is fine because we've got a longer season to go, and get him back when he's fit and healthy. Ideally, we would like him back now, but I think that you're going to see more in the rotation of MJ Stewart and Ronnie Harrison. I think we will see them play a lot more spots and snaps, should I say, in a lot more spots. And I think that they will try and cover the I suppose the ground lost by these guys, because if you think about it, while we have lost those three players and we haven't had them in the opening two games, we also haven't seen a ton of MJ Stewart or Ronnie Harrison. And obviously MJ was back before the start of the season. Ronnie Harrison was acquired just before the start of the season. And that's where my mindset comes in here, that the three guys coming back won't get a heavy workload, if any workload at all, because the precedent this coaching staff has had is not to trust guys into the firing line straight away, as we've seen with MJ Stewart and Ronnie Harrison. But look, options are options. Delighted to have them back in the fold. It's encouraging to see that while we expected at least two of them to be done for the season, we're now getting them back on week 3. And while I'm obviously not cheering for any other team that has had a dart of injuries and stuff like that, but we really got the angel's kiss there with regards to what happened last weekend with ACLs, MCLs, ankle injuries and stuff like that. Nearly half the league is on IR at the moment, and it's not usual, but the Browns are getting players back while the league are losing all their top stars. So you know, I'm thankful for small mercies in that aspect that we played on the Friday night. Didn't have many injuries other than Vernon and obviously who didn't start and Claiborne. But yeah, things are looking good on the injury front. And hopefully, as I say, that these guys begin to build back into the rotation over the next few coming weeks.
I'm just I suppose a couple of things from my point of view here. The interesting thing I'm seeing with the injuries, and that's an interesting thing that you said there. Like, I think the guys that have been hovering around the last few weeks, MJ Stewart and Ronnie Harrison in particular, I think they're going to see more ball, as you said. I'm fascinated by the Mac Wilson talking, right? I'm fascinated by the fact that I think a huge chunk of the fan base seem to believe that our linebacker problems go away the minute Mac Wilson comes back onto the pitch, the field. I get pulled up for saying that a lot. Apologies, Americans. The field. When Mac Wilson gets back onto the field, I don't believe our linebacker problems go away. Mac Wilson is still a work in progress, and I don't believe, like, you know what I mean, I don't believe it's going to be a significant upgrade over what we have there. So I don't know, that part of the field still worries me a little bit. I think Johnson coming back would be an upgrade over to Javier Thomas in the slot, because, like, God love him, he's a trier. He tries hard, but he's a special teams guy. He's not a slot corner, you know.
He's special teams. On the Mac Wilson piece, I think, that's a fair assessment to have. That Mac Wilson comes in, he gives us another body. Really, is what we need in there, and a mobile body. Well, mobile pre-injury anyway. We'll see what he's like when he comes back. But I'm neither on the train of that it's shit or bust for him. He's gone out of the league after this year if he doesn't perform for Browns. And I'm also not on the train of he's actually the best linebacker we've had ever, you know, which, and like, there are two trains there, that this guy is an all-worldly, unbelievable player, or that he's absolute dog shit. And there's a reason that Nick Saban didn't want him to come out into the NFL. I'm neither on those two sides. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm kind of saying to myself, look, we have him on, you know, 4-year contract. If he comes good in year 4, that's what I'm hoping for, you know. And if we can get meaningful snaps out of him over the course of this year, then that's fantastic. But he's the only returning linebacker that we have from last season, and I think that's why people put an awful lot of himself and Takitaki, should I say, are the only two returning linebackers that we've had from last season. I think that's why people are putting an awful lot of kind of hope in his corner. But as I say, I'm neither in the he's crap and I'm going to be proven right corner, and I'm not in the he's an absolute exalted god of a linebacker and I'm going to be proven right corner. I just want him to be decent. That's all I want. That's all I expect for any of those players.
All right, Neil, let's move on to have a quick look at the Washington side of the ball. Couple of interesting things here, really. Looking at, I think the biggest thing is Sheriff is out. So Sheriff is gone for a portion of the season anyway. So starting at left tackle to have Garon Christian Sr. Another option to have there was someone that we were familiar with from this year's draft, Neil, that me and you were quite high on. I think Sadiq Charles at left tackle. He would be their sort of second in line there in their depth chart at tackle. So maybe he sees some of the ball. We don't know how that's going to work out. Their O-line, they're not blessed, Neil. They really aren't blessed at O-line. And when you're talking about this team as a whole, when you look at this team as a whole, they're incredibly talented on the D-line. On the D-line, Ryan Kerrigan, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, you know, they're on Payne. They have names everywhere on that D-line. Kerrigan showing up on the injury report, did not practice. A toe, you got to imagine that gets strapped up and injected and he's fired out on the pitch now.
Field. Definitely. The field, John. The field. You got to imagine Ryan Kerrigan's going to go. Look, he's a former Boilermaker. I'm sure they've often dropped boilers on their toes there. The Purdue Boilermakers, which I think is an absolutely hilarious name for any team. But I would expect him to go. If he doesn't go, well, then we feast. We have to feast because Ryan Kerrigan is very decent player. And I don't think anybody is going to disagree with that. Saying that though, Ryan Kerrigan has not been flawless over the last 2 years. Like, he had a very down year last year. I know that he was out for a portion of the year, but he did have a down year. He started to show fragility coming off a brilliant year the year previous. But like, his tackling was horrendous last year. His run defense was horrendous last year, and I know that his snap count was down and so on, and he did have some injuries, but he hasn't really started off any better this year either. He's like, run defense, we can run at Ryan Kerrigan, we can run at predominantly we can run at the whole Washington defense, to be honest with you, and have our way with them. This is a great matchup for us. Their defensive line and our two-headed running attack is a great matchup for us. They weren't able to stop Kyler last week, and they weren't able to stop the San Francisco 49ers the week before. You know, granted that was a tighter game, 24-20 with the 49ers, but we know what the 49ers like to do, and they like to run the ball. But their run defense was graded out very, very poorly. And, you know, I think that we're going to see a masterclass from Chubb and Hunt this week. And I think that's going to be a real go-to area for us. Especially, like, if Ryan Kerrigan doesn't suit up, as I say, we got to go and feast for absolute sure on that one. Now, they've got a couple of good linebackers there. You know, there's a couple of good linebackers. Obviously, Chase Young has proven to be just brilliant since he's came in. Real shining light on a team that's probably kind of punched above its weight so far. But I think we'll see an awful lot of run the ball away from Chase Young, and just take what the defense is giving you from the run game side of things. And I think we will have a lot of I think we'll have a lot of joy in the run game again this week.
The secondary for Washington, Neil, doesn't on paper doesn't look bad at all. Kendall Fuller, Ronald Darby, two experienced cornerbacks there, guys we've been familiar with in recent drafts. Jimmy Moreland, Fabian Moreau, a cornerback, of course. Landon Collins, a strong safety. Troy Apke, free safety. You know, there's guys there now. I'm not sure if a lot of those guys are trading on name and not on production at the moment, really. But like, when you look across the defense as a whole here for Washington, they're not bad. It's just where I think they're going to struggle, Neil, and where I think that if we're going to talk about where the game will be won and where the game will be lost, I think their offense are going to be pretty easy to stop. Mm-hmm. And my logic behind that is I'm looking at the running back depth chart here. J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson, a wide receiver only playing running back to, you know, a couple of games in the league. Peyton Barber, you know, Bryce Love, who you know, shouldn't have gone back. And unfortunate with injuries and all that as well. Like, you know, so he's a guy. It'd be interesting to see how he develops. At the quarterback position, and I've got to say, you know, don't want to draw any ire from Buckeyes fans that I know are listening. I do not fancy Dwayne Haskins in his position there at the moment. I think he's on a very, very hot seat, and having watched him last week, I think that coaching staff at the moment are doing their best to get the ball out of his hands as quick as possible so he doesn't get killed behind that O-line. And that's what it looked like last week. It really looked like every play was an absolute rush to get the ball away from him. And he did not look comfortable at all. I think they're going to struggle, and I think he is going to struggle against the Browns front four especially. And then when you look at what's out wide, Dontrell Inman catching the ball out wide. Terry McLaurin, yes, great player, very good player, and he's going to be a star in the league. Antonio Gandon and Gandy Golden, who we were keeping an eye on this year in the draft, you know, another decent player, can go and get the ball. But after that, Neil, Stephen Sims Jr., Isaiah Wright, Dontrell Inman, Cam Sims, like that, they're not blessed with weapons. Their O-line is not great. Their quarterback is not playing great behind that O-line. I don't believe these guys can score enough points to beat us.
No, neither do I. And I think that's what kind of they invested an awful lot in defense. And you mentioned names there. They've got a very good defense. They've got a defensive head coach, Ron Rivera, and I think that's why. Also, a couple, I suppose, along with Jack Del Rio being their defensive coach, they probably went, just let's solidify that piece. They know they're going to be picking high again this year. They could still be in the Lawrence sweepstakes if Haskins doesn't pan out. The I won't say the curtain hasn't been pulled back on getting rid of quarterbacks after year one, year two, but it does happen. You do tend to see it with the likes of obviously what we did with Deshaun Kaiser. Obviously a second round pick, not a first round pick, and wasn't ready for the league in any shape or form. We've seen it with people like Brock Osweiler signing a big contract, getting rid of him the next year. We've seen it with teams like, it's countless teams. Countless teams have done it. Denver did it with Keenum. You can just go down through it. And obviously, Josh Rosen has been gotten rid of twice in 2 years. So it's the kind of the unwritten omerta with regards to that is kind of gone now. It's not kayfabe anymore, so you can do it. So if they do want to get rid of him, they can. But that is the thing. I think they've built this team to be defensive for the course of this year, and that they have basically punted on the offense. But I do need to highlight this, John, that they have Ken Zampese as their quarterbacks coach. And if we're to believe Bob Wiley, Ken Zampese can magic up fantasticness like he did in that year when Freddie Kitchens was calling the plays, that it was all Ken Zampese. So maybe they don't need an offense. Maybe Magic Man is going to come and do everything again this year. And Ken, for all the good work for all the good words that Bob Wiley said, Ken couldn't get him in as the offensive line coach after we took Bill Callahan off them and they went with John Matsko. But they have a really, really experienced coaching ticket, should I say. And Scott Turner is, look, I'm going to say it. For anyone out there, you have to take a drink because every time Scott Turner's name is mentioned, it comes with, he's Norv Turner's son. I'd hate to be the son of a football coach. You just could never get away from it at all. But as I say, like they've got multiple 20-year coaches on their team, so they're going to be well coached. I just don't think they're going to have the juice in the tank to kind of get through it. And as I say, they really are living off their D-line is fantastic. Like the depth in that D-line is unbelievable, even down as far as Matty Anidas. Tim Settle is pretty decent as well. Jonathan Allen, we didn't even mention, who was a first-round pick too. They've got 5 or 6 first-round picks there on that team and that D-line. And I know we're going to flip over to our own team at the moment, but I think that's really going to be the best battle of all. If our O-line and their D-line butt heads head to head, we could have a fantastic game in the trenches there on Sunday.
Well, that's Neil. That's a good point, and I think that's you're bringing up I spent my entire week on Twitter looking at Brad Thorne clips and Jeff Schwartz clips and guys breaking down.
Brad Thorne is excellent. Excellent.
Very good, very good. I learned so much from watching his stuff. But we're on the precipice here, I think, with this O-line of having something really good. I really do think we are. We've a guy like Teller that's come in there and doing a fantastic job, looking like they've been coached up, looking like they have improved. We have so I was interested in looking at a lot of O-line stuff this week. I saw Tristan Wirfs had a great game for Bucks last week, and Becton appears to be road grading everything in front of him for the Jets, which
Becton existed.
Well, I have to say, Becton I was a big fan of Becton through the whole process, and he had a monster of a game last week. He was shoving guys all over the field. Jesus, that's 3. Anyhow, so to see all these guys and that are doing so well, like it has been, I think, fantastic for the Browns that I think we got our guy we got the right guy for us. To see how the O line is blending in there, and to see how all the guys are starting to play together. As I said, I'm excited for the future for the O line. I think we've played a very difficult front in defensive front with Baltimore, and we didn't have that many problems against the Bengals. I'm expecting Chase Young to offer some problems this weekend, and I think it'll be a mighty battle. But again, I think we have in Baker Mayfield and in the system, if we get those designed bootlegs, play action, going again, and get him away from the line of scrimmage, get him out of the pocket, get him moving comfortably, I think we will get great success there, because it'll neutralize the strong point of this Washington team. And I think the strong point of this Washington team at the moment is Montez Sweat and Chase Young especially. And they're on paying up the middle. But as I said, if they are busy running after shadows and the middle of the field opens up, the run game could have a very good game up the middle against Washington.
Yeah, you mentioned Chase Young there as well, and it's interesting the way that he's being moved around that line, that defensive line. He's the last game he was pretty much equal time as left end or as right end. 19 snaps as a Leo, and he had 22 snaps as a Rio as well. Drops back into coverage as an outside linebacker. Not that much, only about 11 times in the game, but they move him around the place. But once again, I think that fits into our strength, because if we're playing two tight end sets and they're moving him across the line to either side of the line, like you saw the way Harrison Bryant blocked last week was brilliant. You saw the way that Austin Hooper blocked last week was brilliant. You get Jack Conklin back in there as well. So if you need to bring in cover for and help for any of these guys, we're in an absolutely brilliant position to do that by bringing in one of our tight ends. So I'm more concerned, and I shouldn't be, because we've got the number one graded guard in Wyatt Teller, who everybody thought was going to be the weak link. And then we've got should be Pro Bowl center and Pro Bowl left guard inside there. But I think that they may get some pressure up the middle, potentially. Look, as I say, that's one of the strongest areas of our team, but I'm just not worried about our offensive line. I'm not worried about people getting around our offensive line. I think that they do play an awful lot. It's not that I think they do play an awful lot of only two linebacker sets as well. So they bring in extra defensive backs. Usually they have John Bostic on the field along with Kevin Pierre-Louis. They only brought in Sean Dion Hamilton, only came in for 21 snaps last week, and most of those were in run defenses, to be expected. But as you say, they played a lot of Troy Akpe. Jimmy Moreland basically played the full game last week as well. Landon Collins, as you mentioned, Ronald Darby. So they've got 4 DBs on the field at all times. They've got 5 DBs in the field, should I say, more often than not. So what I'm trying to say here is I think that they're going to look to pick us off on coverage that way. I think we'll be strong enough to be able to keep their D-line out of there, because we will bring in at some stage 2 tight end sets and then let our hunt out of the backfield, whether it's Cadarrell Hodge that's brought in, because it's interesting to note that whenever we only have one wide receiver on the field, that he's in there, probably because of his good blocking skills as well, if needs be. Or obviously we've got Beckham and Landry as well that could get something in over the middle. So it's going to be a really nice matchup, because, as I say, our big strength from the start of the season goes up against their big strength for forever, really, for the last couple of seasons. And we have the better complementing, complementary staff. I can't think of what word I'm trying to use, that are there as well, the better pieces that we can use to nullify those. So if we get them caught up in a war at the trenches, that we have the better tools that we can go to, maybe in the flats, maybe something something in over the middle, maybe take the intermediary stuff, or just basically take the top off it with Odell. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to the tactical matchup here, and I'm also looking forward to the fact that they've got a banged up O-line and our defensive line is playing well. I think that Sheldon Richardson is going to have an absolute field day up the middle. for this defense, and I think that the Dwayne Haskins would be foolish to take anything under center, and I think everything is going to be heavily given to him in the shotgun. If they could give it to him in a bazooka, put him 20 yards back, I think that's the way that they would do it. But shotgun will have to do.
The way it's going at the minute to be a preference. So safe to say, Neil, we're both going for a win. We're both going for a good performance again, hopefully, and a win. And hopefully back here next week talking about Cowboys up next, is it?
Cowboys up afterwards, and that's another game that I'm looking forward to, because I think that could be 50-50, as in like 50 points each, because they can't defend for shit in the back end, and we can't defend at the moment, can't defend in the back end. So I think both of those teams are just going to air it out all over the place, and we'll see what way that one goes.
Could be an interesting one. But look, that'll do it for today's show. Thanks very much for listening. Please pass the pod on to your friends by retweeting. If you can rate and review, that'll really help us out. Follow us on Twitter, myself at @JohnCahill_IRL, and Neil at 2 Green Browns. They can get the podcast at Clee Sports Pod. And we'll see you all next time for a new installment of Clee Sports Direct.